I'm Ellen Wood. I'm voting no on Prop Q because I love Austin.
Ellen Wood, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. How long have you lived in Austin?
My family moved here in 1975, and I finished school in AISD,
What high school?
Anderson, where I met my husband. We're high school sweethearts.
Okay. So you're here to talk about Prop Q, and the Prop Q, if it passes, that's a tax rate election. If it passes, Austin property taxes will go up by about 20%. Is that correct?
That's right.
And the impetus for this is there's a $33 million deficit in the city budget. And so the city of Austin saying they need an extra 20%. How do you feel about that?
Well, I think it's a contrived number first. I think that our city manager, who's highly qualified and very well compensated, brought a balanced budget forward and did not recommend a TRE. And our city council adjusted it, pulled some things out that they can talk about, like public safety and parks and so forth, that would appeal to people, and have created this $33 million shortfall. And then they've proposed a TRE that's going to create over $100 million in additional taxes. And that will be our new tax base every year going forward, that will be compounded by whatever changes are made in the future. So I think it is very poorly done.
So you say it's contrived because it's not necessary. That deficit doesn't need to exist.
I do not think it needs to exist in any way. What I haven't seen at all, and I've heard council members' questions about this, is any sort of cost savings efforts that the city has made in order to fit within their available revenue. Examples of that were Ryan Alter was recently asked what the city had done, and his response was, well, we eliminated some positions that had been open for a really long time. And for myself, a CPA and a former chief financial officer who runs a business of chief financial officers, that's one of the most fiscally irresponsible things I've ever heard. I don't see any efforts that have been made to actually trim expenses, to inject efficiencies, and those sorts of things, which is what I expect from our public servants who are using our tax dollars to pay for things.
So in your private experience, when a company has a deficit of, I think the math turns out to be about 0.5% of the total budget. That's $33 million. In your experience, is that an emergency?
That is not an emergency in any way. There is no private business in existence in the United States, much less the world, in my opinion, who couldn't find a way to trim that much expense from their income statement, especially an entity that hasn't done any looking yet.
And when you say they haven't done any looking yet, are you talking about as an example, what Ryan Alter said, or has the city of Austin ever really looked, or?
I'm not aware of it, and I haven't seen any fiscal responsibility in that area. I know there was an initiative several years ago, 2017, I think, asking the city if they would undergo an audit, an external audit, not an internal audit, an external audit, an efficiency audit. Those kinds of things are done across the country, and they have saved hundreds of millions of dollars. They've put potential savings there for consideration in cities that are approximately our size. And to this day, I do not understand why our city is so opposed to doing that. That's the fiscally responsible thing to do. But what did our city do? Our city labeled it on the ballot as Proposition K. And then they tied it to the Koch brothers, and they said, "Oh, this was funded by the Koch brothers," and put a lot of fear into the community. When in fact, not a dollar came from out of town in the effort to make the city consider doing an external audit. That ballot measure being put on the ballot that year. I don't understand why they would be afraid of doing that when the potential is enormous for the citizens of Austin.
Yeah. So an external audit has been done in other places. It's not abnormal. Whether we're talking, we could talk about governmental entities or even private corporations. An external audit typically finds ways to be more efficient?
Well, audit is an accounting term. So,
Sure.
most companies have an external audit and it's all about your financial statements. What I'm talking about is an efficiency audit
Yeah.
where someone comes in who's an expert in these things and looks at how we do things and looks at what best practices are. It makes recommendations for things that we could do differently, places that we could cut, things that we might re-engineer or inject new systems and processes. And for whatever reason, our city council is afraid to do that. They're either don't want to see the results, don't want to adopt the results. This was most recently done with several departments in Houston, and several $100 million has been identified. I just don't understand it.
So the unwillingness to try to find that cost savings, do you think that that's congruent with the city's message that we're in an affordability crisis and we need to, the city of Austin needs to do things to address that affordability crisis?
Well, raising a TRE doesn't address the affordability crisis for the citizens. It gives the city more money to spend on things. It gives them $33 million to solve this, in my opinion, contrived budget shortfall. And it gives them another $70, $80 million in slush funds that have not, don't have a purpose.
So that affordability crisis that the Austinites are facing, that the city of Austin says that they care about, this Proposition Q makes things worse.
It definitely makes things worse. I feel very fortunate. I am not going to feel this increase. Many people I know are not going to feel this increase. I am worried about this increase for the majority of Austin that are going to feel it. The renters who are going to have their rents go up. The folks that are on a fixed income who don't have an extra $200 and some odd dollars a month, $300, not a month, a year, to take out of their budget to pay for this. And don't forget, they also raise City of Austin fees substantially. That is going to hit every family to the tune of $200 plus a year. So really, you have to take those two things together when you think about what's happening. We have a basic tax increase, we have a tax rate increase election, and we have City of Austin fees that have gone up.
So it sounds like the city of Austin is, when they talk about an affordability crisis, what are they doing to address that, if anything?
I don't see it. I'd like to see it. That's what my business does. We go in and find efficiencies. We help our clients improve operations. We help them benchmark against best performers. All of those opportunities are available to the city, but they're not taking advantage of them. They're simply turning to us. They're saying things like, oh, we lost all this government funding. We lost this state funding. What they lost was a lot of one-time grants, and nobody should have built their budget to require continuity of one-time grants.
So you've been in Austin. You grew up here. You graduated high school here. You have family here. How has Austin changed in that time?
Well, I think Austin has changed certainly a lot since I was in high school and graduated from the University of Texas, and even since I've built my company now. It's 29 years old here. I think a lot of great things have happened. I've seen Austin become a center for some wonderful business, new businesses coming to town, expansion, all of that. I'm a total supporter of growth, and I think that we've done a good job. I will say I think it's been more the business community that has driven that, but I think a good job has been done bringing in a much more diverse set of companies, residents.
Yeah.
Since then.
Yeah. And is it more or less affordable than?
Much less affordable, much, much, much less affordable. I'm very concerned for our children. I have a son in his mid-30s. My friends have children who aren't able to get a foot in on home ownership. And I think that's a very big concern.
Yeah. What about grandkids? I have kids that are in elementary school right now. What do you think is are people of that age that grow up in Austin, are they going to be able to, if things keep going this way, how is that going to work out for them?
Well, I really can't say, except to say if we don't change direction, this will not be affordable for the majority of Austinites.
Yeah. And I've heard a lot of people say, that Austinites, longtime Austinites, especially in East Austin, they've all moved out to, say, Buda or Hutto or Leander or wherever they may, the outskirts, right, the suburbs. If Prop Q passes, you think that accelerates?
I do. I think it does accelerate. Our lived experience in our family is my husband was a mentor in a elementary school in Southeast Austin, had hundreds of children there. And these were children who were lower income. And that school has gone to such a small enrollment now that they're probably 25% of what they were several years ago. And those folks have been forced to move out of Austin. We look at the AISD declining population and everybody blames it on charter schools, which is a factor. But we're also losing a lot of the children that can't afford to live in the school district.
And you bring up AISD, that's another taxing entity here in Austin and in Travis County, but there's also Travis County, there's Central Health. All of these taxing entities, have you looked at their tax rates and how much they are taxing, how much that's going up with Austin? What's the big picture?
Well, the big picture is really bad. Travis County is taking their taxes up to the max because they can do it, because there was an emergency. That's a 9% increase right there. And again, their actual requirement to solve the piece of the flood problem that happened in Travis County is, I think, less than half of the amount of money that they're going to raise. So where is that money going to go? Where will that money, how is that going to be spent, and how is that responsible? This is not just a City of Austin problem. All of our taxing authorities should be collaborating and thinking about the impact that their increases have on the average citizen.
So it's not just an Austin problem, as you say, but there's only one taxing entity, the City of Austin, where the voters actually have a say.
That's true. And, when I say it's not just a City of Austin problem, I'm going to say it is very much a City of Austin problem. When you compare what the City of Austin has done since 2016 with the other counties around us, Bastrop as an example, which is a county that has a tremendous, a city that has a lot of need for infrastructure to support their growth, their taxes have only gone up 70%, which sounds like a lot, but 70% since 2016. And then you look at the City of Austin, it's over 130%. And you ask yourself why. I happen to have heard this week that Bastrop is approving their tax rate, and it will be less than the state maximum, whereas we are approving all the way to the max, plus we're going for a tax rate election so that we can raise it another approximately 15%.
So since 2016, the City of Austin has raised the property taxes by, you said, 130%?
Yes, I was just looking at a property where that's exactly what happened. Their City of Austin taxes went up 130%.
And do you think that Austinites, especially long-term Austinites, but any Austinite, do you think that they've seen 130+% benefit?
I don't. I think about that myself, and I think about what's different. My house is worth more, so I pay more taxes. My tax rate's higher. No, I don't. I haven't seen any improvement at all.
And what does a property tax increase of this amount do to renters, senior citizens on fixed incomes, poorer communities? What does that do?
Well, those are folks that have far less in terms of resources to adjust their household budget when these things hit. What kind of raises are they seeing? Are they seeing a raise that covers $1,000 a month increase, which is, some people have estimated the average that the combined tax increases are going to be here in Austin this next year? Did their households see that kind of an increase? Plus, they've had to deal with their own inflation for their own household expenses? I don't think so.
So for those that don't know about Prop Q, this is an off-year election. I don't know what turnout's going to be, but for those that don't know about it, what do you want them to know? What should they know?
I want them to know that our city could have done a better job of cutting expenses before turning to the citizens and asking for more money, and they should have. The ballot language should have been more specific about what they were going to spend it on. And until they're willing to take a hard look at how they spend our money and find ways to be more efficient and save money and consider an external audit, we have no business approving tax rate elections.
And let me ask you this. If the 3.5% is the maximum revenue increase, they're wanting to go above and beyond that with this tax rate election.
Absolutely.
And this tax rate election is forever.
Yes.
If approved.
Not
So-
only forever, but it'll be part of the base upon which increases are made every year. It's a compounding thing.
So next year, if they go to the maximum again from the state, whether or not they do a tax rate election, this is the base that they start with.
This is the base that they start with.
So the long-term prognosis, in your opinion, is what?
An increasing lack of affordability in Austin, more and more families priced out of living here, unnecessary expense bloat